Okay.
Okay, got it?
Yeah.
Wish I knew what I know now. Wisdom is the principal thing. All this time just wasted thinking I own anything. Humility clothes me from the top of my head, soles of my feet, yeah. Teach me, teach me, show me the way. Hide my face from the wickedness of this world, I pray. Take my hand, protect my heart, hide me in the shadow of your wing. Like a child, see purity in my eyes. Allow me to sit at your feet. Hear me, hear me. Show me your ways, teach me your paths. I'm yielding to your will. Your loving commitment will endow me, surround me in my coming and my going. Cleanse me, purge me. I want to be white as snow, so I may testify of your love to those in search of you. Show me the way. You desire truth, the inward parts you make me know you. Take my hand, casting all my cares, refresh me with the waters of life. Like a child crying softly, forgive me. Allow me to approach your throne. Know me, yeah. Know me. Have mercy upon me, O Elohim, according to your loving kindness. According unto the multitude of your tender mercies, blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly from my iniquity, and cleanse me from my sin. For I acknowledge my transgressions, and my sin is ever before me. Against you, you only, have I sinned, and done this evil in your sight, that you might be justified when you speak, and be clear when you judge. Behold, I was shapen in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me. Behold, you desire truth in the inward parts, and in the hidden part you shall make me to know wisdom. Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow. Make me to hear joy and gladness, that the bones which you have broken may rejoice. Hide your face from my sins and blot out all mine iniquities. Create in me a clean heart, O Elohim, and renew a right spirit within me. Cast me not away from your presence, and take not your Holy Spirit from me. Restore unto me the joy of your salvation, and uphold me with your free spirit. Then will I teach transgressors your ways, and sinners shall be converted unto you. Deliver me from blood guiltiness, O Elohim, the Elohim of my salvation, and my tongue shall sing aloud of your righteousness. O Yahuwah, open up my lips, and my mouth shall show forth your praise. For you desire not sacrifice, else I would give it. You delight not in burnt offering. The sacrifices of Elohim are a broken spirit, a broken and a contrite heart. O Elohim, you will not despise. Do good in your good pleasure unto Zion. Build you the walls of Jerusalem. Then shall you be pleased with the sacrifices of righteousness, with burnt offering and whole burnt offering. Then shall they offer bullocks upon thine altar.
There we go. All right, we'll say shalom, shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom, everyone. All right, well, I want to first give all honor, praise, glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Mashiach, Yahweh Shai. Happy Sabbath, first and foremost, everyone. And happy first day of Hanukkah, or CHANUKKAH, right, as we say in the ancient Hebrew. Everybody knows what CHANUKKAH means? No? Nobody knows? It means dedication. Feast of dedication. Chag CHANUKKAH. You can write that down. CHANUKKAH. Right? CHANUKKAH. It means dedication. And this is one of our feast days that we, I don't want to say made up on our own, but this is a feast day that we chose to dedicate the temple back to the Heavenly Father. Okay? First, everyone please put their phones on silent and vibrate or whatever have you. No noises, no interruptions. We're going to give the Most High his due. My phone's on vibrate, silence. Is this anybody's first Hanukkah service? Okay, 1, 2. First Hanukkah services, brothers? Okay, what is y'all understanding of Hanukkah? Anything that you know about it? Any ideas that you've had before? Okay, that's part of it. That's part of it. What else? Mm-hmm. Well, what did you learn about it before? Like, did they teach you what it meant or what it was about? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, tonight we're actually going to go into some of the history behind Hanukkah, where it came from, why we celebrate it, what it means, and what its importance is to us as Israelites. Okay. But before we do that, of course, I always give honor to the Sabbath day because remember, it is a Sabbath day. Oh, by the way, my name is Yaraph. I'm sorry, I wrote some of the new brothers and sisters who are here. My name is Yaraph. Okay, I've been here in the House of David for 6 years. Well, thank y'all for coming tonight. This is our beautiful feast day. I'm glad to see everyone here. Glad to see family. And of course, you know, this is what we do every Friday night here at the House of David, 191 Howard Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. Come join us. Okay, we have Sabbath night classes on Friday nights from 8 p.m. to approximately, give or take 10 o'clock. We try to do it as the sun goes down, especially during these winter months when the sun goes down a little earlier. So we try to do it from sundown to about, maybe a couple of hours. And then we come back later on Saturdays, Saturday afternoons, from approximately 12 p.m. to maybe 2:30, 3 o'clock. So please come join us. Come learn the truth about your nationality. Come learn the truth about the Bible. And so I always want to give honor first on the Sabbath day whenever I teach the Friday night classes. So if we can go to Exodus 20 and 8 real fast. Exodus 20 and 8. This teaches us about the Sabbath day.
This is the book of Exodus chapter 20 verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy.
Right. The Most High told Moses to tell us to remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, right? Sabbath day is from Friday night sundown to Saturday night sundown, okay? Not from Sunday, not from midnight Saturday to Sunday midnight. It's from Friday night sundown to Saturday night sundown, okay? Go ahead.
Verse 9, 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work.
So 6 days we get from Sunday to Saturday to Friday evening to do all of our work, right? Go ahead.
Verse 10, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Most High thy power.
Right, go ahead.
In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gate.
Right, so on the Sabbath day, we're supposed to take a rest from all of our works. Us, our parents, our children, people who work for us. If we have any animals, they're supposed to take a rest for the Sabbath day, okay? They get a day off. If you own a business, then you're supposed to give your employees a Sabbath day off. If you have a housemaid or a housekeeper, a groundskeeper, people who come and work for you, they're supposed to be able to take the Sabbath day off as well. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 11.
Oh, wait, or anybody who came within our land, right? That says when it says the strangers that is within thy gates. When we were in our own land, people who came into our country, they were not permitted to work on the Sabbath day either. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 11. For in 6 days the Most High made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is.
Right.
And rested the Sabbath day. Wherefore the Most High blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it.
Right. So the Most High made the earth and heavens in 6 days and then blessed the seventh day because he stopped what he was doing. You can read that in Genesis chapter 2, verses 1 to 3. Okay. God saw that all the work that he did was done, and he said, this is a blessed day, and he rested that day, stopped what he was doing, and sealed it. Okay. From there, get me Psalms 118, verse 22. I believe that's it. I always use that verse. Oh, I'm sorry. 118, verse 24.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 118, verse 24. This is the day which the Most High have made. We will rejoice and be glad in it.
Right. Well, this is the day that the Most High has made, the Sabbath day, the first day of Hanukkah, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. Why? Because every Sabbath day and every Hanukkah we get a step closer to our salvation. And that's what we're looking forward to. So whenever we come to another high holy day, another Sabbath day, we get closer and closer to our salvation. Okay? So, like I said, this is our first day of Hanukkah, and tonight, I'm not going to go through all of it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lay the foundation and the groundwork for why we celebrate Hanukkah and what it means and where it came from, okay? Because it's an 8-day feast, and throughout this entire feast week, we will be celebrating and honoring this feast week, okay? So we're going to start with Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 16. I'll try to hit as many of the solid points that I can in the time that we have allowed, so that way people can get the understanding of what it is.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 16, verse 16. 3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before the Most High thy power, in the place which he should choose.
Right. So in the beginning, when we first got these commandments, when we were in the wilderness, right, we were given 3 specific high holy days where the men were supposed to appear before the Most High in the place that he chose, right? There were 3 specific high holy days that we were meant to be here for. Go ahead.
In the feast of unleavened bread.
Right. So the first one was the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which we also call the Passover, correct? Go ahead.
And in the feast of weeks.
Right. The Feast of Weeks, it culminated on the day of Pentecost, right? We know that as Pentecost. Go ahead.
And in the feast of tabernacles.
Right. In the Feast of Tabernacles also. So it said that that was the feast for the fall, right? And it says, go ahead.
And they shall not appear before the Most High empty.
Right. So when we celebrated these high holy days, we were supposed to come before the Most High with an offering. We couldn't come empty-handed. We had to offer something, right? Now notice that Hanukkah is not on this list, right, of the major high holy days where we were required to be there. But Hanukkah was still prophesied about in the scriptures, right? So when we were supposed to celebrate the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Feast of Weeks, and the Feast of Tabernacles, Hanukkah came later, okay? But it was still prophesied about. And we're going to read about that prophecy in Daniel chapter 8. We're going to read Daniel chapter 8, verses 1 to 14. Now, Daniel was a prophet that we read about during his time in Babylon. He was taken to Babylon during the captivity, and he was still receiving visions. Yes, put that on vibrate, please, brother. Okay, well, you got it. Daniel chapter 8, verses 1 to 14. Okay.
This is the book of Daniel, chapter 8, verse 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me, Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first.
So he's seeing another vision from one that he saw earlier, right? Go ahead.
Verse 2. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam.
Right, so he was over there in the land of the Elamites, right? He was in captivity. Go ahead.
And I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai.
Right, go ahead.
Verse 3. Then I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram, which had 2 horns.
Right, he saw a ram or a bull, a ram with 2 horns. Go ahead.
And the 2 horns were high.
Right, they were very high on his head. Right, go ahead.
But one was higher than the other.
Right, one was higher than the other. Go ahead.
And the higher came up last.
Right, so he's seeing this animal with horns on his head, but one was higher than the other. Right, what it was going to go into what it means. Go ahead.
Verse 4. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him.
Right.
Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand.
Right. So this is a vision that Daniel's seeing of a ram that's pushing and extending its reach, and no one can stop him. Right. Go ahead.
But he did according to his will, and became great.
Right, he did what he wanted. No one could stand before him. Right, go ahead.
Verse 5. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat,
right,
came from the west on the face of the whole earth.
Right, a male goat appeared out of nowhere and came upon the face of the whole earth, right?
And touched not the ground.
Right, it was like he was floating, like he was levitating. Go ahead.
And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes.
Right, had a horn in between his eyes. Right, go ahead.
Verse 6. And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river,
Right.
and run unto him in the fury of his power.
So imagine this goat just came up out of nowhere and took the ram head on and boom rushed him. Go ahead.
Verse 7, and I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler, against him.
Right. Choler is hate. It's intense hatred. So this he-goat had it out for the ram. Right. Now imagine a goat. A goat's not that big. A ram is huge. And this little he-goat with a horn in between his eyes came up out of nowhere and bum rushed him and took him out. Right. Go ahead.
And smote the ram.
And smote him and killed him.
And break his 2 horns.
And broke his horns. Right. Go ahead.
And there was no power in the ram to stand before him. But he cast him down to the ground.
And did what?
And stamped upon him.
So not only did he bum rushed him, took him head on, he broke his horns and stomped him out. Imagine a goat stomping out a ram, right? That's how powerful this goat was. And we're going to learn who the goat was. Go ahead.
And there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand.
And no one could save that ram. Go ahead.
Verse 8. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken. For it came up 4 notable ones towards the 4 winds of heaven.
I want y'all to highlight that right there. And it came up 4 notable ones toward the winds of heaven. Okay, we're going to go into who the notable ones are in a few minutes, but I want y'all to highlight that and remember that verse. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 9, and out of one of them came forth a little horn.
A little horn, right? Out of the 4th horn came a little horn. Go ahead.
Which waxed exceedingly great towards the south.
Towards the south.
Towards the east.
Towards the east.
Towards a pleasant land.
And where's that pleasant land? Israel. All right. That pleasant land is Israel. So they had that 4th little horn had its eyes set on our land. Okay. Keep that in mind. All right. Go ahead.
Verse 10. And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven.
And even to the host. This little horn became bigger and mightier and more powerful to the host of heaven, right? Go ahead.
And it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground.
Right.
And stamped upon them.
Right. So this horn, this little horn from this he-goat started to get even stronger to the point where they started to take down even mightier men, right? And started messing around with the host of heaven. We're going to get into that also. All right, go ahead.
Verse 11. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host. And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away. And the place of his sanctuary was cast down.
Now I want y'all to highlight that also, okay, or underline it. Do what you got to do. It says, by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. All right, go ahead.
Verse 12. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression.
By reason of transgression, meaning sin. Go ahead.
And it cast down the truth to the ground.
Right.
And it practiced and prospered.
Right. So it says, and a host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. Meaning basically he sold his soul to get his power and to able to stop everything that was righteous in the earth, namely us, namely what we were doing in the world. Right. Go ahead.
Verse 13. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint, which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice?
Right. It says, so one saint was saying to another, how long will this vision last, or how long till it be? Right. Go ahead.
And the transgression of desolation.
Transgression of desolation. Right. Go ahead.
To give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden on the foot.
It's saying, so they're wondering how long will this take place? Like, when is this going to happen? That the sanctuary will be in the host to be trodden underfoot. Right? Go ahead.
Verse 14. And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days. Then shall the sanctuary be cleansed.
Right, so I want y'all to highlight the 14th verse also, because that's the prophecy of Hanukkah right there. It says, until 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed, okay? Because we were going to have to clean up all the filth and the nonsense that the Greeks actually instituted while we were there. I mean, while they were there in our temple, all right? So now we're actually going to get into the story of Hanukkah, but I wanted y'all to see that Hanukkah was indeed prophesied about in the Old Testament. Okay, just because it's not in Leviticus 23 or Deuteronomy 16 doesn't mean that it's not something that we celebrate. It is something that we honored, and it was something that was spoke about before it even happened. Okay, so now for those who don't have apocryphas, everybody has an apocrypha, correct? Okay, good. So we're going to jump into 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 1. Remember the verses I told y'all to write down or highlight and underline, because now it starts right away. Right, whenever you got it.
This is the book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander, the son of Philip, the Macedonian.
And the Macedonian. So Alexander, the son of Philip, who the world knows as Alexander the Great, right? We say Alexander the Greek because he wasn't great. Not in our eyes. Anybody who takes over our land is not great in our eyes. But Alexander the Greek, right? The son of Philip, the Macedonian, like the area of Albania, that part of the world. That's where he came from, okay? Go ahead.
Who came out of the land of Shittim. And smitten Darius, the king of Persia.
Right. So remember when the he-goat boom rushed the ram, right? What happened? Read that verse again, that part of it.
And has smitten Darius, the king of Persia, and Medes.
Right, so the two horns were the Persians and the Medes, okay? And the he-goat broke the horns, meaning he destroyed their kingdom, right? Go ahead.
That he reigned in his stead, the first over Greeks.
Right, so that he-goat took over, and remember it said that he kept pushing outward also and had his eyes set on the pleasant land. So when you look at Alexander's empire, his empire expanded from Greece all the way out east to India. He had one of the largest empires in history. And we're going to read that again. Go ahead.
Verse 2. And made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth.
Remember, the he-goat was stomping out everything in its path, right? He was killing kings. He was making many wars, and got to the host of heaven where he could stomp them down under his feet. This is how strong this empire was under Alexander, right? Go ahead.
Verse 3, and went through the ends of the earth.
Went through the ends of the earth, from this end to that end. Go ahead.
And took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him.
Right.
Whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up.
Remember the characteristics of that he-goat. We go back to Daniel 8 real fast. That he-goat was getting very hubris. So he had a lot of hubris going on, right? It said, verse 10, it said, and it waxed great even to the host of heaven, and cast down some of the hosts and the stars to the ground, and stomped on them, right? That's how mighty and give me some word. He was very, the he-goat was going, he was getting there. He was up there. And Alexander had a lot of cockiness to him. He had a lot of pride, I should say. He was a very prideful man, as you can see. Go ahead.
Verse 4. And he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries,
right, and
nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him.
Right. So all these countries that he took over, they started paying tribute to him. Right. Go ahead.
Verse 5. And after these things, he fell sick and perceived that he should die.
Right. Because Alexander actually died very young. He was only 33 when he died. Right. Everybody in here except me is probably older than that. Right. He only lived to be 33 years old. Yahushua lived to be 33 years old. So just imagine. And he only reigned for about, what, 12 years, it says?
Right.
So just imagine in a short amount of time, he got a lot done. and conquered many nations. Most people won't even see that in their lifetime, but he did it in a short amount of time. That's why he got the name Alexander the Great. Right? Go ahead.
Verse 6. Wherefore he called his servants such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he yet alive.
Right. So while he was alive, before he passed away, he was able to part his kingdom up, right? And the 4 kingdoms that we read about, or the 4 generals that we learn about, the 4 horns, if you will. All right. So I want you to write this down. Okay. So the 4 generals, and I believe Ash has gone over this in some of his steward classes, but just for reiteration purposes, right? The first one is antagonist, right? I'm gonna spell that out for you. Antigonus, right? Antagonist or antagonist, right? And he ruled the Macedon part of the kingdom, which was where Alexander was from, Macedonia, which was like Eastern Europe, Iran, that area, that part of the world, right? Then you have Ptolemy, right? Ptolemy, Ptolemy, right? Ptolemy. And he ruled Egypt, right? That's where they got the name Ptolemy in Egypt from. Okay, he ruled that part of the world. Then you have Cassander, right? Cassander, 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 right? And Cassander, hold on, I had it written down, but make sure I get it right. Say what? The Hellespont. Where's that at?
Greece.
Okay, so that part of Western Europe. Okay,
right.
Perfect. And then you had Seleucus. All right, Seleucus, Seleucus. Okay, Seleucus. And he ruled over what is called Mesopotamia / Central Asia. And this is where we were at. We were under the Seleucid Empire, okay? We were under the Seleucid Empire under Antiochus Epiphanes, and we're about to read about him now, okay? Go ahead, Uncle Mike.
Verse 7. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died.
See, he didn't have that much time as a ruler. He was very young, okay? Go ahead.
Verse 8. And his servants bare rule, every one in his place. Verse 9. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years.
Right.
And evils were multiplied in the earth.
I want y'all to see that. It says evils were multiplied in the earth. I want you to hold that. Get me Proverbs chapter 29, verse 12. It says evils were multiplied. It didn't say goodness. It didn't say righteousness. It said evils were multiplied in the earth, because this was a wicked kingdom that came up into power. Okay, 29 and 12, Proverbs 29 and 12.
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 29, verse 12. If a ruler hearken to lies, all his servants are wicked.
If a ruler hearkens to lies, all his servants are wicked. As they say, if the head is sick, the whole body's sick, right?
Gone.
So if the rulers are wicked, as these men were, then guess what? Their kingdoms are going to be wicked too. All right. If the ruler is evil and will manipulate and lie and serve himself, then the kingdom is a wicked kingdom. It can't stand. Okay. Let's go back to First Maccabees, and where do we leave off? Oh, verse 10.
This is the book of First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 10. And there came out of them a wicked root.
A wicked root, right? Go ahead.
Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes.
Right, surnamed Epiphanes, which was quoted as saying God manifest, because he felt that he was a god in the earth. That's how prideful and wicked he was. He thought that he was God in the flesh. An Edomite with that kind of nerve, right? Go ahead.
Son of Antiochus, the king, who had been an hostage at Rome.
Right. So Antiochus that surnamed Epiphanes was Antiochus the Fourth. Okay, Antiochus the Fourth. You can write that down. His father was obviously Antiochus the Third, who was a hostage of Rome, right? So he was part of Alexander's army, so to speak, his rulership council. Go ahead.
And he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks.
Right. So the Greek Empire lasted a very long time, Basically started from the 300 BC. Okay. Whenever someone asks you when did white supremacy start, it started with the Greeks. Okay. They were the harbingers of white supremacy. You ever heard people say that the Greeks are the cradle of civilization, as if they were the ones who started math and science and philosophy, and they're the ones who started all of this? No. Okay. It started way after everybody else. They're late to the party, if you will.
That's right.
Okay. Go ahead.
Verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men.
Now, wherever their wickedness is, we are surely to follow, unfortunately. Okay. Go ahead.
Who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us.
Right.
For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow.
Now we know that this is us because every time things are going wrong in the world, we want to join around with the heathen and say, listen, ever since we've left them, things have gotten so much worse for us. We can't get it together, so we might as well join them, right? Hold that. Get me Psalms 106, verse 35. Yeah, 106 and 35.
This is the book of Psalms 106, verse 35. But were mingled among the heathen and learned their works.
Right, so this is exactly what we're reading. We mingled with the heathen because we thought that we were better off joining them instead of saying, nah, we not, y'all keep y'all foolish ways, we'll keep our own ways. We said, no, let's join them. Let's make a covenant with them, because ever since we left them, things have gotten much worse. Go ahead, read on. You read 36.
Oh, 36. And they served their idols.
And we served their idols, right?
Which were a snare unto them.
And this is a common theme throughout the Bible. Every time we started mingling with the nations, we started to learn their customs, learn their ways, and serve their gods and serve their idols. It's a common theme, right? In fact, you read 37 too.
Verse 37, yea, they sacrificed their sons and their daughters unto devils.
Right, and this is what the heathen do even to this day. Right? And we get caught up in it all the time. We sacrifice our sons and our daughters to their gods, right? I give you a perfect example. We have our children in the world, they celebrate wicked holidays like Christmas or Thanksgiving, Easter, Halloween, right? We have them serving their gods and their idols, sacrificing them to devils, okay? Instead of teaching them about Hanukkah, right? And real quick, I want to say this because it's just really, you have to really think about it, right? The holidays that the world celebrates, right? What do? They reinforce white supremacy, right? When you look at Christmas, it enforces white supremacy. When you look at Easter, it reinforces white supremacy. Thanksgiving is the epitome of white supremacy. But Hanukkah in itself is about resisting white supremacy and Hellenistic culture, because we didn't want their influence on us like that. We didn't want to serve their idols and their gods and their nonsense. We didn't want to be with them. We didn't want to do the things that well, as you can see, a lot of us did. But for the most part, we resisted that. And that's why this holiday is special. Okay, this is why this feast week is very special, because we live in a world where our people want to resist white supremacy, but still practice it at the same time. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, you can't say that you're about black power and black liberation, but still want to celebrate white man's holidays.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. So this holiday is special because it teaches you how we resisted white supremacy head on. Okay, so that's why this holiday is extremely special, and I'm glad that we actually have it. Okay, we can go back to First Maccabees. Where do we leave off?
At verse 12.
Okay. Read verse 11 again, please.
This is the book of First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying,
Persuaded many, right? Now, it only takes a few. It only takes a few to persuade the many, okay? Especially those who have a little bit of clout, a little bit of pull, who are very persuasive or who are popular, to say, you know what, let's join them. Let's do this, let's do that. They call them influencers now, right? If you have social media, you know what an influencer is. People who literally just put stuff out there just so you can do it. Whether it's a trend, whether it's fashion, whether it's whatever. People who are very influential can get you to go off against the Most High, right? Go ahead.
let's go and make a covenant with the heathens that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow.
Go ahead.
Verse 12. So this device pleased them well.
Right. They were like, you know what? It's a good idea. We should make a covenant with the heathen. Let's sell out our own people, sell out our God, sell out our temple, our country and countrymen, right? Let's leave our customs and join them. They're the winning team, right? Go ahead.
Verse 13. Then certain of the people were so forward hearing that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathen.
Right. So our people literally went to the king and said, we want to join you, right? We want to join your customs. We want to do what you do. We want to be just like you, right? Go ahead.
Verse 14. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the customs of the heathen.
Now, this is what you call a gymnasium, right? And I want you to write that down, gymnasium. And it literally means naked exercise, place of naked exercise. So if some of you brothers and sisters who like to go to the gym and work out, you see why people dress the way that they do at the gym, whether they're wearing very little or very whatever. It's because of this. This is a Greek custom. Okay, they were literally butt naked in these areas, lifting weights and whatnot. Okay, this is why athletes dress the way that they dress, right? Why they have uniforms the way that their uniforms are, right? Wrestlers, they don't wear anything. They basically wear nothing when they fight, right? All because of this, right? Read that again.
Verse 14. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the customs of the heathen.
According to the customs of the heathen. Now, we did it like they did. We had our own customs when it came to exercise and fitness and overall good health. But the way that they did it was very vulgar and very pervasive. Okay, when you see a person's nakedness, it's enticing. Right? Whether you see a woman's nakedness or the other way around, it's very enticing. So that's how they did it. Remember, they were full of debauchery and evil and lewdness, right? Because of this is how they did these things. Have you ever seen like ancient Greek statues? How do they show them? Naked, muscular, right? Say that again? Right. They're all that's what they were into, right? So when you look at, even if you look at ancient sculptures of some of our biblical figures, right? Like if you go on Wikipedia right now and you search King David, they have a picture of a statue of David and he's half naked. It's madness, right? Madness because of this. All because of verses 11 through 14. Because we wanted to join them when it came to this. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 15, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant,
right,
and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to the mischief, to do mischief.
Sold to do mischief, meaning we sold ourselves out. Okay, we sold ourselves out. All right, go ahead.
Verse 16, now when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt,
right,
that he might have the dominion of 2 rams.
So now Antiochus started to get greedy. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 17. Wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen, and a great navy.
And you know, we were all up in that army. You know, he recruited all of our sellout people who wanted to join him. You know, he sent us off to war, to die, to expand his kingdom, right? Go ahead.
Verse 18. And made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. And Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled. And many were wounded to death.
Right, so Ptolemy punked out. He said, I don't want to fight him, right? His army's too strong. Go ahead.
Verse 19. Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof.
Go ahead.
Verse 20. And after that Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned again in the 143rd year, and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude.
With a great multitude. So remember when I said earlier, it said the he-goat had his eyes set on the pleasant land, right? Everybody paying attention? Okay. It said the he-goat had his eyes set on the pleasant land. So it says when in the 143rd year, he went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude, right? This is where he comes for us now. Go ahead.
Verse 21. And entered proudly into the sanctuary.
Right, here we go.
And took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light.
Right, that candlestick light was the giant menorah that we had in the temple, right? Go ahead.
And all the vessels thereof.
Right, and all the vessels, the holy vessels, the cups, the wash pots, the showbread, all those other things. Go ahead.
And the table of the showbread, and the pouring vessels, and the vase, and the censers of gold.
Right, where we had the incense that we would burn. Go ahead.
And the veil.
Right.
And the crowns, and the golden ornaments.
Everything.
That were before the temple.
Right, go ahead.
All which he had pulled off.
So he went into our temple, took all our, I don't want to say artifacts, but all of our material, everything that we held to keep the temple running, he took all of that with him. He ransacked the temple, just like the Babylonians did. Babylonians did the same thing. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 23. He took also the silver and the gold and the precious vessels. Also he took the hidden treasures which he found.
Right, so all of our hidden treasures, he took all that too. Go ahead.
Verse 24. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre, and spoke very proudly.
Right, so remember that little horn started to expand and reach the stars of heaven and stomped on it. So he took all of our stuff and kept it moving, right? And went back in his own land with our stuff in it, right? Go ahead.
Verse 25. Therefore, there was a great mourning in Israel.
Is that a problem? Yeah, keep going.
In every place where there were. Verse 26. So that the princes and the elders mourned, the virgins and the young men were made feeble, and the beauty of women was changed.
Right. So once we caught wind of this, that's when Israel went into mourning. All right. Once we saw that our land was desecrated, our temple was ransacked, and it was empty, and it was turned over, looked like somebody robbed the place. Right. You ever walk? Well, I don't. Hopefully, this has never happened to any of you, but sometimes when you see people come home and they see that their house has been ransacked and robbed, it's devastating. Okay. So just imagine we walk into here and all of our stuff is gone. Somebody just turned all the tables over, stolen the computer, took where's the menorah at? Oh, it's over there. Took everything, right? We would be like, Dad, like they really got us. We got, right? That's how we were feeling. Okay. Jump down to verse 40. Yeah, start at verse 40. No, I'm sorry, 39.
Book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 39. Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning.
Actually, you know what? I'm sorry, Mike. Go to verse 30. I want to read verse 30 to 32. Then we're going to jump down to 39.
This is the book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 30.
Yeah, because it's going to drive the point home a little bit.
And spake peaceably words unto them, but all was deceit.
Because when you read it, verse 29, it says that the king sent people to collect tribute from us, collect taxes from us, but now they were being deceitful about it. Okay, just like Esau does. He sends in his representatives, and then he comes later with his foolish people, and that's when they really tell us what's going on. Go ahead.
For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city.
Right, so we accepted these tributaries, these chief people, because we thought that they were just coming to collect taxes, but now here's what they really came for. Go ahead.
And smote it very sore, and destroyed much people of Israel.
So many of our people were put to death by this chief tributary collector. Go ahead.
Verse 31. And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire.
He set the city of Jerusalem on fire. Okay? Jerusalem was literally hot at the moment. Okay? Go ahead.
And pulled down the houses and the walls thereof on every side.
On every side. So he just completely set the city ablaze. Came to collect taxes. Said he was coming to collect taxes, but literally just put us all to death and burned the city down. All right? Go ahead.
Verse 32. But the women and children took their captive and possessed the cattle.
Of course. They took our women and our children captive. All right? Now we could jump down to
40.
Yes.
First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 40. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased.
Right. Go ahead.
And her excellency was turned into mourning.
Right. So we saw what was going on and we went into a state of mourning. Right. Go ahead.
Verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people.
All should be one people. Here comes your one world order. Right. What does it encompass? Go ahead.
Verse 42. And every one shall leave his laws. So all the heathen agree according to the commandment of the king.
Right. So Antiochus puts out a decree that we all should be we should be all one human race, that as we hear it today. There's no race, but there's the human race, right? We hear that all the time. It's the same rhetoric. And it's coming from the same people. Only Edomites say stuff like this. Okay? Seriously, because you have some of us who believe this, but it mainly comes from them. They were the ones pushing this. Why? Because Esau has no heritage. Right? He has no inheritance either. Right. All the nations have their portion. Israel has their portion, but Esau, what does he have? He has a legacy of what? Destruction and death and murder and pillaging, right? There's nothing left for him. So he wants everybody else's portion, okay? So that's why he's writing this. Because literally, how do you conquer the known world, right? All these kingdoms, and then you come around and say, we should all be one people. We're all one race. Who does that? Esau does that. He's the only person that does that. Even Nebuchadnezzar didn't do that, right? We certainly don't do that because we know who we are. We know that we're different from everybody else. But Esau is the one who says, no, everybody's the same. We're all equal. We're all God's children, right? What's up? Always. He can't sit still. He doesn't keep it home. So he wants everybody else's portion, takes it, and then says, look, we're all the same. We're all one in Jesus, right? He's a liar. There's no other point to put it. There's no other way. Go ahead.
Verse 43. Yeah, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion.
Of course. So this is where we get into Hellenism, right? Uncle Mike, please get out your Zondervan, right? We're going to define Hellenism or Hellenist, right? And it's very specific towards us, as you'll see. If any of you have this Zondervan Bible Dictionary, if you don't have it, I recommend that you get it, right? Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary. It's very, very inexpensive, and it has a lot of information in it pertaining to us, specifically as so-called black people, right? Hold on when you got it.
Hellenist. This is the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary.
What page is on?
223.
Page 223. Just to let you know, we're not making this up. All right, go ahead.
Hellenist. Jews.
Who?
Jews.
Everybody.
Jews.
Africans.
Jews.
Asians.
Jews.
Arabs.
Jews.
White people.
Jews.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Who made Greek their tongue.
Who stopped speaking Hebrew and started speaking Greek. Go ahead.
And with it, often adopt Greek ideas and practices.
And who often adopt Greek ideas and practices, right? So think of your, what's the word? Fraternities and sororities in college, right? Greek life, okay? People who wanted to stop what they were doing and join the Greeks. Our people specifically, it says Jews, right? Hebrews, Israelites. We stopped what we were doing. We left our religion and joined the Greek customs, okay? We wanted to dress like them. We wanted to write like them. We wanted to sing like them. We wanted their philosophy, their way of thought, right? Even down to the, let's talk about the dress for a second, the dress code, right? Because whenever you see pictures of biblical characters, they're usually dressed like Greek folks with the sash and the long robe and the long sleeves. We didn't dress like that. We didn't dress like that at all. Even if you see pictures of you know, Christ and the apostles and even the angels, right? They have them dressing in those long flowing Greek-like robes or Roman-like robes where they have them looking like them, right? Instead of dressing how they were supposed to dress, as the scriptures say, right? With a girdle, with a long garment down to the foot, with fringes on them. When have you ever seen a picture of a biblical character dressed with fringes on? Never. I've never seen it, ever, right? Have them looking like Greek philosophers. So this is where this is all coming from, right? Read that precept again, Uncle Mike. It said that where they should, many of the Israelites consented to his religion.
Oh, verse 43. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols,
right,
and profaned the Sabbath.
And we read that in Psalms 106, right? That's exactly what we did. We took on their customs, started sacrificing to their gods and their idols, right? Go ahead. And we profaned the Sabbath day, right? Go ahead.
Verse 44. For the king has sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange law of the land.
Go ahead.
Verse 45. And forbade burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple.
Remember what we read about in Daniel? It said the sanctuary, it's called a daily sacrifice to cease, right? Antiochus literally said, listen, stop all of this, put an end to this. I'm banning sacrifices of the true religion, so to speak, and you have to follow our religion now. Go ahead.
And that they should profane the Sabbath and the festival days.
So we couldn't keep the Sabbath days, we couldn't keep the new moons, we couldn't keep the Passover, we couldn't keep Feast of Weeks or Tabernacles, all the three high holy days that I mentioned in the beginning. All of that had to stop. They put a stop to all of it. They forbade it all. And these were the days that we were supposed to celebrate, right? These were the days that the Most High said that we had to come to him. And we couldn't come empty-handed. So now this heathen is telling us, no, you can't do that no more. You do what I tell you. And a lot of us went along with it, right? Go ahead.
Verse 46. And pollute the sanctuary and holy people.
Right, go ahead.
Verse 47. Set up orchards and groves and chapels of idols.
And did what?
And sacrifice swine's flesh.
See, now that is entirely disrespectful, especially with what just went on last week or a couple weeks ago. You know, we're reading about it right here in the scriptures. You know, I love my brothers, but there's no. Go ahead, brother. I don't want to think that, but it's possible. It's very possible. So there was a congregation of Israelites that on Thanksgiving Day, right, no less, they came together in I believe it was the brother's home. I'm not exactly sure, and they had a spread. They claimed that they were not celebrating Thanksgiving, that they came together to honor the Most High and Yahushai and go against Thanksgiving. But when they went over the spread of, what was on the menu, the sister had made roasted pork. Okay. Yeah, there was a giant pan of roasted pork, and they tried to justify it when they got called out on it. The brother tried to justify it and say that I mean, I didn't even watch his rebuttal, but I know he tried to justify it by saying that there was that Leviticus saying that you can't, when it says that you can't eat, it means you can't sacrifice it or something like that. It's madness. Right. There's no defending it. There's no defense for what he did, for what those brothers and sisters did. And all we can do for them is just pray that they repent, right? So pray that they repent and come out of that, because there's no help for that. Sure, sis. Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. Like you're reading, we consented to this evil, right? They were the harbingers of it, but we went along right with it, so that makes us just as guilty, right? Now those brothers, they know. If they call themselves Hebrews, they call themselves Israelites, they're supposed to know swine's flesh is an abomination. There's no other way around it. So to eat it and honor Yahushua with it, you're committing treason. It's practically treason. Right. So, but you're reading it right here, right? We're reading it right here where the heathen sacrificed swine's flesh on our altar, right? Something we would never even think about doing. In fact, when you read Isaiah, it says that when those who were eating swine's flesh were hiding behind the trees and whatnot. They were doing it in secret. They did it openly in the temple. Openly in the temple after they burned everything down. This is what they do. Go ahead, brother. All of them. All of them. All of them. All right. So read that verse again, Art. Just pray for them. That's all you can do. Just pray that if they don't repent, then pray that the Most High has mercy on them, because. Right. Right. And it's up to us to put a stop to it. And thankfully, most Israelites who were, basically practically everyone who saw it called it out for what it was, which was wickedness. It was evil. Okay, and they have to be corrected. So just pray for them. That's all I can say. Just pray for them. Go ahead, Unc.
This is the book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 47. Set up altars and groves and chapels of idol, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts.
And unclean beasts. So there were other unclean beasts that they sacrificed on the altar too, not just swine. But notice that it said swine specifically, because that was an abomination of the highest order. All right, go ahead.
Verse 48. That they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanliness and profanation.
Right, so it says that they also leave their children uncircumcised, so our boys were not getting circumcised, and they were making their souls abominable, meaning that their very essence, the very nature of their being was unacceptable to the Heavenly Father, was abominable. He detested them. Little children, right? We were sacrificing our children to devils, right? Go ahead.
Verse 49. To the end they might forget the laws and change all the ordinances.
Change all the ordinances, change everything. Surely you turn the world upside down, right? Go ahead.
Verse 50. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die.
Right, so if you didn't get along with the program, guess what? You got put to death, right? No questions asked, you got put to death. Right, go ahead.
Verse 51. In the same manner wrote he to his whole kingdom and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the city of Judah to sacrifice, city by city.
Right, not our sacrifices, but the sacrifices to their gods, like Zeus and Ares and all of them, right? Go ahead.
Verse 52. Then many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit, every one that forsook the law, and so they committed evils in the land.
Right, evils in the land. Go ahead.
Verse 53. And drove the Israelite into secret places, even wheresoever they could flee for succor.
Right, so those of us who were still trying to keep the commandments and keep the law to the best of our ability in the land, we had to go run and hide, right? We had to go find places to flee so that way we can keep the laws. And guess what? It's going to come to a point of that again, where a lot of us are going to have to run for our lives so that way we can keep the laws. Okay? I want y'all to be prepared for that because it's coming to that point. All right, go ahead.
Verse 54. Now in the 15th day of the month Caslu.
Right, so Caslu is the month that we're in right now, the 9th month. So on the 15th day of the month Caslu, right, go ahead.
In the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation.
Oh, there it is, right, go ahead.
Upon the altar, and built idol altars throughout the city of Judah on every side.
Right, so they set the abomination of desolation upon the altar. You can read that in Daniel chapter 11, right? Verse, I believe, verse 29 and 30, right? The abomination of desolation, right? When we saw that thing, we knew it was over, right? There was no coming back for us at that point, especially if we honored it, right? 11:30 and 31. Slakia. Verses, you can read Daniel chapter 11, verses 30 and 31. Okay? Write that down and read it later on your own time. Okay? Yeah, we're going back to Maccabees. All right? Where we left off on
verse 55.
All right. Go ahead, read it.
This is the book of First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 55. And burned innocent at the doors of their houses and in the streets.
Right, so all these idols, these altars for these idols get set up throughout the cities of Jerusalem and Judah and everywhere of our coast, right? And the abomination of desolation was on the altar, right, at this point. So the point where it's they have completely taken over our land and everything in it. Go ahead.
Verse 56. And when they had rent in pieces the book of the law, which they found,
right,
they burned them with fire.
Right, so they took our Bibles, right, our records, our holy records, our birth records. They took all these things and burnt them with fire. This has happened plenty of times before, because like I've said before, when we originally had the scriptures, they were not written on pen and paper like it is right here, right? They were on different forms of parchment, scrolls, leaf notes, all these different things. So they kept had to get rewritten because the material would not last long. So they had to get written over and over and over and over again throughout the course of time until we got these, right? But unfortunately, when these heathens came in, they took our records and burned them off so that way we would completely forget our nationality, our laws, everything. They ransacked our libraries, took everything, all of our records, and burned them to a crisp. So that way we wouldn't even remember them.
Right.
Go ahead.
Verse 57. And wheresoever was found with any, wheresoever was
found
with any the books of the testament, or if any consented to the law, the king's commandment was that they should put him to death.
Right. So there was a point where if you got caught with a Bible, you got put to death, right? The Bible was banned in its own land, essentially, or even across his entire kingdom. If you got caught with this book, you got put to death. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 58. Thus did they, by their authority, unto the Israelites every month, to as many as were found in the cities.
Many is found in the city. Go ahead.
Verse 59. Now the 5th and 20th day of the month, they did sacrifice upon the idol's altar, which was upon the altar of God Most High.
Right, so that's tonight. So tonight they did that. They sacrificed an altar on the idol altar, which was on top of our altar.
Right.
Right? Go ahead.
Verse 60. At which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that has caused their children to be circumcised.
So all of our women, our sisters, our mothers, who were still trying to do the right thing by the Heavenly Father, if they found that they were circumcising their children, they killed them too. Right? So the sisters weren't safe. The women were not safe. Right? Remember in Deuteronomy 28, it said that they didn't regard the young, the old, the woman, the child. They didn't care. They came in and destroyed everything and everybody. All right, go ahead.
Hold on.
And did what to our babies? Read verse 61.
Verse 61. And they hanged the infants about their
They
necks.
hanged the infants about them. So they took our babies, our young babies, and hanged them from the necks. Right? Go ahead.
And rafted their houses and slew them that had circumcised them.
Right. So women and children were all put to death. Go ahead.
Verse 62. Howbeit many in Israel were fully resolved
Right.
and confirming themselves not to eat any unclean thing.
Right. Why? Go ahead.
Verse 63. Wherefore they chose rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meat,
Right.
and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died.
Right. So they chose death over dishonor. Right. They chose death. They rather die than even eat swine's flesh or sacrifice to idols. Right. And many of us are going to have to make the same choices. Okay. I'd rather die than celebrate Christmas again. Right. Some of us are going to have to get into that mentality. I'd rather die than serve this evil society. If push comes to shove, would you choose death? Think about that. Or the scripture said, examine yourselves, whether you really believe what you say. Because they chose death. And they got put to death in the most horrible of fashions, right? Some of them got hanged. Some of them got slaughtered. Some of them got chopped up, thrown off cliffs, bridges, right? Burned, boiled, all of the above, right? Because they did not want, it says they did not want to forsake the holy covenant. That's how much it meant to them. And that's how much it should mean to us, that we would rather die than go back into the world, right? We rather die in the truth at a young age than live old in a wicked society, right? We would rather die, right? Go ahead.
Verse 64. And there was very great wrath upon Israel.
Okay, go ahead. Go on to chapter 2.
Chapter 2. First Maccabees, chapter 2, verse 1. In those days arose Matthias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, the priest of the son of Jorab from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modem.
Right, so this priestly family was one of the order of the priests that David has set up. If you want to read that, you can read 1 Chronicles chapter 24. 1 Chronicles chapter 24. Okay? And also chapter 14. Okay, where you read about the different families, the different Levite families that served at the in the temple in rotation. Okay, there were different families that got set up. I had to serve at this time. This family served at this time, and that time. This particular family was the descendants of the Maccabees, or I mean, other way around. This particular family came from the family of Jorab. All right, go ahead.
Verse 2. And he had 5 sons. Jonah, called H.O.D.C. Verse 3. Simon, called Tasai. Verse 4. Judas, who was called Maccabeus.
Right, that's the one who we read about the most, the Maccabees, right? Maccabee means hammer. Okay, write that down. How do you say it in Hebrew? Makawath, I believe. It means hammer, right? Go ahead.
Verse 5. Eleazar, called Avanan, and Jonathan, whose surname was Appius. Right. Verse 6.
Aphis.
Aphis. And when he saw the blasphemy that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem,
Right.
verse 7, he said, Woe is me! Wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people?
Now, mind you, he's a priest, right? This is a priestly family, so they took this personal because they basically destroyed their office, their line of work, their duty, their calling. Their calling was destroyed because remember, the Levites were the priests. And since the temple was desecrated, all the holy vessels were taken away, and the altar now has an abomination on it. They took this personal, and he took this personal because he served in the rotation. His family, he comes from a family of priests who served with rigor and valor. So they took this personally, as they should, right? Go ahead.
And of the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hands of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hands of strangers.
Right. Okay. So for the sake of time, jump down to verse 14.
This is First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 14. Then Matthias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourned very sore.
So if you want to link all these verses with one particular scripture, you could write Ecclesiastes 7:7. Surely oppression make a wise man mad. Because like I said, they took this personally, right? Their office, their calling, their passion was destroyed by these heathens. So surely oppression should make a wise man mad. To see the state of your people in a state of disrepair and oppression, really, it should anger you. It should drive you insane, as it did, right? Go ahead.
Verse 15. In the meanwhile, the king's officer, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city of Modin to make them sacrifice.
Right. So this Edomite came into the city of Modin to convince the people to start to sacrifice these idols. Right. Go ahead.
Verse 16. And when many of Israel came unto them, Matthias also and his son came together.
Right. Go ahead.
Verse 17. Then answered the king's officer and said to Matthias, On this wise, thou art a ruler and an honorable and a great man in this city.
Right.
And strengthened with sons and brethren.
Remember what I said earlier when we read in the earlier chapter, right? That it only takes a few. So of course he's going to go to the most well-known man in this city, the ruler of the city, the leader, and say, look, come here. Come sacrifice, so that way everybody else will fall in line with you, right? Go ahead.
Verse 18. Now therefore come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done.
Right.
Yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem.
Right.
So shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends.
Right.
And thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold.
So go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish the verse.
And many rewards.
So this is how they do. They try to get you to sell out and get you to compromise everything that you believe in for personal gain. Because he said, look, if you sacrifice as all the heathen have done and some of the people, your own people down in Jerusalem, you'll get many rewards. You're going to get a nice house, get a nice car, you get all this money and your great name and all this. Right. You'll be the first black man. Listen, you'll be in league with the heathen, with the king, and he's going to take care of you and this, that, and the third. Right. Go ahead.
Verse 19. Then Matthias answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him and fall away every one from the religion of their fathers,
right,
and give consent to his commandments.
He said, listen, all y'all can sell out, right? Y'all can leave your religion, you can compromise your beliefs and everything, this, that, and the third, but go ahead.
Verse 20. Yea, will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers.
Right. So he said, me and my house, we're going to serve the Most High. We ain't going to serve you wicked devils and heathens. We're not going to do that. Okay? You can link that with Joshua 24:15. Me and my house, we will serve Yahweh. Go ahead.
Verse 21. The Most High forbid that we should forsake the laws and the ordinances. Verse 22. We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion.
Right.
Neither on the right hand or the left.
And we're not gonna sway. We're not gonna listen to you. We're not gonna follow your commandments. We're not gonna follow your religion. We're gonna stay the straight and narrow path. We're not gonna sway to the right. We're not gonna sway to the left. Okay. We have to have that same mentality. When people try to come up with us and try to get us to leave this and say, "Oh, you're in a cult. You're this. You're that." Okay. They try to insult you. They try to take away your livelihoods. Don't sway to the right or to the left, okay? Because this is the only truth here. There's nowhere else to go. There's no other reward better than this, right? Go ahead.
Verse 23. Now when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar,
Of course.
which was at Moden.
Of course. There's always one. There's always one. Okay, go ahead.
According to the king's commandment.
Right. You could tell a group of 5 people, right? Listen, pork is bad for you. You shouldn't eat it. It's not good for your body. It's not good for your spirit. It's just not. You could list reason A through Z why you shouldn't do it. And there's always going to be like, man, I'm still eating my ham sandwich. Leave me alone. There's always one. I still want to eat pork if I want to. So there's always one that'll come up and just undo everything that you just said. Right? Go ahead.
Verse 24. Which thing when Matthias saw, he was inflamed with zeal.
Right. He was incensed. He was riled up. Go ahead.
And his reins trembled. Neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment.
Right.
Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar.
Killed that nigga on sight. Okay. Killed him on sight, as he should have. Okay. I just told this man, we're not going to follow you. And then here you come and do it anyway. No, you have to die now. You have to die. There you go. It's gotta be the same spirit. It's gotta be. It has to be. There's no other way, because it always does. But at the same time, it's like, I just told this man, I'm the ruler of this town. I just literally said, we're not going to follow you. I literally just said it, and here you come with your nonsense and your foolishness. You have to die now. You're the weak link. You have to go. All right. Where are we at?
25.
Go ahead.
Verse 25. Also the king's commissioner, who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time. And the altar he pulled down.
So he killed the king's messenger too. Not only did he kill the Israelite that was about to sacrifice, he killed the messenger too, and probably sent the head back to Antiochus and said, here's your messenger. Don't try me. All right. Go ahead.
Verse 26. Thus dealt he zealously for the law of the Most High.
Right. And it just goes to show you there is righteous killings, right? There's a righteous killing. There's a way. Remember, the scripture says, do not commit murder, right? But when we committed evil and wickedness, then we had to put certain people to death. There was just no other way to come back from it, right? This was one of those times, okay? And this was a righteous thing that he did. He killed this man and his messenger. This is a righteous killing, okay? Go ahead.
Like as Phineas did unto Zambari, the son of Salem. Verse 27. And Matthias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the law.
Real quick, wasn't Phineas the brother that killed that the other Israelite who was sleeping with the Hamite in the tent?
The spirit in Moses' time, in the wilderness.
Yes, another righteous killing. Okay. You can read that in Numbers 25 verses 6 to 8. Okay, write that down. Numbers 25 verses 6 to 8. Brother was sleeping with a heathen, and he snuck into the tent and killed him with a spear, both of them at the same time. Righteous killings, right? Go ahead, Unc.
Verse 27 again. And Matthias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, Whosoever is zealous of the law and remaineth the covenant, let him follow me.
Right. So after he did all this, he said, listen, whoever wants to join up, follow me. Now, you know, a lot of us were like, listen, he just killed 2 people in broad daylight like that. I'm following him. Slakia, I'm following that man. Okay? Go ahead.
Verse 28. So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city.
Right. So they went into the mountains and basically started to plan the whatchamacallit. Okay? Now, of course, again, for the sake of time, we're going to jump ahead to chapter. Should we just go to chapter 4?
4, yeah.
Okay, yes.
Time's sake.
Yes. Chapter 4. First Maccabees, chapter 4. Okay. Well, first read chapter 3, verse 43. I want you to read down to verse 49. Because this is when they actually got into the temple and saw what they had done.
Okay. This is the book of First Maccabees, chapter 3, verse 43.
Mm-hmm.
They said one to another, let us restore the decayed estate of our people, and let us fight for our people and the sanctuary.
So you see now, remember, these are Levite priests, right? They're in a position of power. Now, I want you to notice the mindset that they were in. They said, look, our people are in a bad estate. We have to fight for our people and our sanctuary. They didn't serve themselves, okay? They didn't say, look, we here, it is what it is, okay? They said, no, we are going to fight for our people and our sanctuary, right? Go ahead.
Verse 44. Then was the congregation gathered together, that they might be ready for battle, and that they might pray,
right,
and ask mercy and compassion.
So before they did anything, right, they prayed and asked for mercy and compassion. So they went to the Most High first, right? Go ahead.
Verse 45.
They didn't do anything on their own accord. They didn't just say, listen, we just going to do what we do and wing it. No, they said we're going to seek the Most High's guidance, his counsel, and his mercy first. Go ahead.
Verse 45. Now Jerusalem lay void as a wilderness. There was none of her children that went in or out. The sanctuary also was trodden down, and aliens kept the stronghold.
Aliens kept the stronghold. So Jerusalem was trodden down of the Gentiles, so to speak. Go ahead.
The heathen had their habitation in that place, and joy was taken from Jacob, and the pipe with the harp ceased.
Right. So the heathen had overtaken Jerusalem to that point. Go ahead.
Verse 46. Wherefore the Israelites assembled themselves together and came to Maspah over against Jerusalem. For in Maspah was the place where they prayed aforetime in Israel.
Right, go ahead.
Verse 47. Then they fasted that day and put on sackcloth and ashes upon their heads.
Right.
And rent their clothes. Verse 48. And lay open the book of the law.
Right.
Wherein the heathen has sought to paint the likeness of their images.
Right, that's what I wanted to get to. So this is how Christ became white, so to speak. Okay? The Caesar Borgia, exactly. That's how he came about. Okay? Because the heathen, when they got hold of our records, okay, they opened the book of the law, said, no, we're going to paint our images. That's why Jesus is white. That's why the angels are white. God is white. All the apostles and the prophets and the forefathers, they're all white because of this right here. Once they got a hold of it, they said no. It's called iconoclasm. Okay? Write that down. Iconoclasm. I-C-O, right? I-C-O-N-O-C-L-A-S-M. Iconoclasm. Okay? It's destroying of religious pictures and artifacts. Okay? Specifically. Right? And if any of you could get your hands on that book, Russian Icons, it shows it crystal clear how they took all the pictures of the religious figures that we read about and painted them white, and you can still see that they have black fingertips because they can't get that deep into it. Okay, but you can see literally how they changed the colors of these people white. Go ahead, brother.
$1,000.
Yeah, because of us, because they saw that we're trying to get it now, and there's too much into it. There's too much in it because they know about it now. Okay, where do we leave off? 49. Read 49 and 50, and then we're gonna jump into verse 4, chapter 4.
Okay. This is the book of First Maccabees chapter 3, verse 49.
Mm-hmm.
They brought also the priest's garments and the first fruits and the tithes.
So see, they started to reinstitute some of the commandments that we were taught, right? The priest's garments and the first fruits and tithes, right? Go ahead.
And the Nazarites, they stirred up, who had accomplished their days.
Right, so the Nazarite vow, we all know about the Nazarite vow. Those who had completed the vow, they were brought into the fold. They were recruited. Okay, so let's jump into chapter 4, and I think we're going to start at verse...
38. Go down.
Yeah, let's go there.
38 to the end.
No. Yes.
38
Yes.
to the end.
Yes.
This is the book of First Maccabees, chapter 4, verse 38. And when they saw the sanctuary desolate, and the altar profane, and the gates burned up, and shrubs growing in the courts as in a forest.
Right, so the temple had become overgrown at this point. All the plants started to grow out of its place where it looked like it was in a forest, right? And everything else in it was basically desolate and profane, like it says. Go ahead.
Or in one of the mountains.
It looked like the wilderness. Like, you ever seen like an ancient ruin, so to speak? It looked like that. That's what they did to our temple. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, the priest's chamber pulled down. Verse 39. They rent their clothes and made great lamentation, and cast ashes upon their heads.
Right.
Verse 40. And fell down flat to the ground upon their faces, and blew an alarm with the trumpet.
Right.
And cried towards heaven. Verse 41. Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he had cleansed the sanctuary.
He said, look, you guys go fight, we'll clean up the sanctuary. Go ahead.
Verse 42. So he chose priests of blameless conversation, such as had pleasure in the law.
Right, so he didn't just choose any old priest, anybody who could just serve in the office. No, he chose priests of blameless reputation, right? Someone who couldn't be compromised, someone who wasn't going to sell out, someone who wasn't going to give up, right? He said, no, look, we're going to choose these particular men that are going to help us clean the sanctuary. Go ahead.
Verse 43, who cleansed the sanctuary and bear out the defiled stones into an unclean place.
Unto an unclean place, right? So they took all they destroyed that altar of the idol, the abomination of desolation, took all that unclean stuff out of the sanctuary and put it somewhere else where other unclean places, other unclean things go. Go ahead.
Verse 44. And when, as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profane, verse 45.
What they think to do. Go ahead.
They thought it best to pull it down.
Pull it down. We can't, this thing can't stand. It's too vile. It's too violated, right? It's too, it's got a bad vibe to it now. It's got bad energy and a bad spirit on it. Go ahead.
Lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen have defiled it.
So imagine what else the heathen did on that altar. I'll let you use your imaginations, all right? Because if we say it out loud, we might get angry. Go ahead.
Wherefore they pull it down.
Right, they said, nah, this thing is it's filthy. We can't have this. It's unclean. Think of say like some of you have a car, right? A lot of you have cars. You lend your car to somebody and you get it back in a condition that you didn't give it to them in. Or you let them borrow something of yours and they did God knows what with it. You don't want it back now. You can't, I can't use it. You keep it now. You did what with this? You did keep it. I don't want it. Or burn it. I don't want it. I don't want it anymore. Right? It's the same thing what we did with this altar. The heathen did all kinds of nasty and gross, wicked, evil things on it to the point we said, listen, we can't even keep this thing standing. Bring it down. Right? Go ahead.
Verse 46. And laid up the stones in the mountain of the temple in a convenient place, until there should come a prophet to show what should be done with them.
Right. So they, of course, remember, we always needed the counsel of the prophets, right? The prophets always knew what to do in certain situations because they received messages straight from the Most High, right? Go ahead.
Verse 47. Then they took whole stones according to the law and built a new altar according to the former.
Right. So they went back into the scriptures, right? And said, how are we supposed to build this thing? And they said, oh, look, they found it. They said, we're going to build it just like this. It's going to look just the same. It's going to be made of the same material in the same fashion, the same dimensions. It's going to be just like it. Go ahead.
Verse 48. And made up the sanctuary and the things that were within the temple, and hollowed the court.
And hollowed the courts. Go ahead.
Verse 49. They made also new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlestick.
They brought the giant menorah back, right? They found it, they got it back, and they brought it back into the temple, right? Go ahead.
And the altar of burnt offerings and of incense, and the table.
The table with the showbread. They rebuilt everything. Everything according to the fashion that we read about in the Torah. Go ahead.
Verse 50. And upon the altar they burned incense, and the lamp that were upon the candlestick they lighted.
Go ahead.
That they might give light in the temple.
So they set all the lamps on the menorah, they lit them all, so that way the temple could be filled with light. All right, go ahead.
Verse 51. Furthermore, they set the loaves upon the table,
the showbread,
and spread out the veil, and finished all the works which they had begun to make.
Right, go ahead.
Verse 52. Now on the 5th and 20th day of the 9th month,
that's tonight. Go ahead.
Which is called the month of Caslu.
Caslu, write that down. Caslu, okay? 9th month, 25th day. Caslu, that's tonight. Go ahead.
In the 148th year, they rose up bedtime in the morning. Verse 53. And offer sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings which they had made.
Exactly. So on the same day that the heathen sought to destroy and desecrate our temple, we cleansed it and started a new temple, basically. We cleansed it, set up a new altar, and started sacrificing again on the same day that they sought to desecrate ours. Go ahead.
Verse 54. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it, even in that was it dedicated with sounds and cisterns and harps and cymbals.
There you go. Go ahead.
Verse 55. Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising the Most High of heaven, who had given them good success.
And given us good success. You can write down Joshua chapter 1, verses 7 to 9. Okay, good success. Because we went according to the commandment, right? And when we keep the commandments, we will prosper. All right, go ahead.
Verse 56. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days.
8 days, right? That's starting tonight. We kept the dedication of the altar 8 days. Go ahead.
And offer burnt offerings and gladness, and sacrifice the sacrifice of deliverance and praise.
Deliverance and praise. Go ahead.
Verse 57. They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold, and with shields.
And with shields,
And the gates and the chambers they renewed, and hang doors upon them.
So it was like the temple got renewed again. It got renewed. And we decked it out. We made it as beautiful as we could with what we had at the time. All right? Go ahead.
Verse 58. Thus was there very great gladness among the people.
Right.
For that the reproach of the heathen was put away.
Right. So we resisted white supremacy, and we staved it off, and we fought it off. Right? Go ahead.
Verse 59. Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their seasons from year to year by the space of 8 days, from the 5th and 20th day of the month Casu, with mirth and gladness.
So the 25th day of the month Caslu, 8 days. Now, mind you, Hanukkah is the only high holy day that really overlaps months, okay? Because it goes into the 10th month. All right? Go ahead.
Verse 60. At that time also they built up the Mount Zion with high walls and strong towers round about,
Right.
lest the Gentiles should come and tread it down, as they had done before.
Right. So we fortified the temple this time. We built higher walls and a stronger foundation. That way they couldn't just come and ransack it like they did before. Okay? Go ahead.
Verse 61. And they set their garrisons to keep it, and fortify Basura to preserve it,
Right.
that the people might have a defense against Idumea.
All right, Idumea. Okay, now write that down. Right, we all know this, but Idumea is the Greek name for Edom. Okay, who is the so-called white man. Now, with that, okay, that's really the end of the lesson. Like I said, I wanted to start a foundation of it because again, it's an 8-day feast, right? Now, who knows why it's 8 days? Anybody know? What is? Not quite, but I like how you're thinking. What you think, Gabara? Exactly. Okay, I'm gonna get that real fast. Get me 2 Maccabees, chapter 10, verse 5. Verse 5 to 8. The Feast of Tabernacles. And who knows why? You know why, Gabara? No, I know you know. You've been here too long. Anybody else know why they modeled it after the Feast of Tabernacles? Well, first we're going to read why, and we're going to read them doing so, and then I'm going to explain why. Okay, go ahead.
This is the book?
2 Maccabees chapter 10, verses 5 to 8. Okay?
This is the book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 10, verse 5. Now upon the self-same day, now upon the same day that the strangers profaned the temple, on the very same day it was cleansed again.
Right, we just read that in 1 Maccabees. On the same day that they profaned the temple, we cleansed it. Okay, 7 years later. Go ahead.
Even the 5th and 20th day of the same month, which is Casu.
Caslu, right? 9th month, 25th day, right? Go ahead.
Verse 6. And they kept 8 days with gladness.
With gladness,
as in the Feast of Tabernacles.
See, there it is. So the Hanukkah is kept 8 days because it's modeled after the Feast of Tabernacles, right? I know the so-called Jews, they try to say that, oh, the candle was lit for 8 days with one. No, it's because it's modeled after the Feast of Tabernacles, okay? Which is in which month? Come on, not all at once. No, the 7th month, right? It's modeled after the feast of the 7th month. Go ahead.
Remembering that not long afore they had held the Feast of Tabernacles.
There you go. See? Go ahead.
When as they wandered in the mountains and dens like beasts.
See, not just before, not too long before that, they kept the Feast of Tabernacles in the wilderness. Remember, they couldn't keep it in Jerusalem because Jerusalem was desolate and it was under heathen control. So they were in the mountains, in the woods, living in dens and in tents and caves and whatnot. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 7, therefore, they bear branches and fair boughs and palms also,
right,
and send psalms unto him that had given them good success in cleansing his place.
There you go. See, so they modeled it after the Feast of Tabernacles. Now, another reason why they modeled it after the Feast of Tabernacles is because the original temple was dedicated during the Feast of Tabernacles. Okay, you can read that in 1 Kings. I believe it's chapter 7. I could be wrong. Which chapter was that? Where Solomon prayed over the temple.
Oh yeah.
1 Kings 8. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. We won't read it right now, but you can read First Kings chapter 8, right? Verse 2, right? In fact, read that really fast. Read it really fast. First Kings chapter 8, verses 1 and 2.
This is the book of First Kings, chapter 8, verse 1. Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel,
Right.
and all the heads of the tribes, the chiefs of the fathers of the children of Israel, unto King Solomon in Jerusalem,
Right.
that they might bring up the ark of the covenant of the Most High out of the city of David, which is Zion.
Right. Now that was a big deal. We had the Ark of the Covenant was probably our most holy artifact, right? Okay, so bringing it to the temple and placing it in the temple was a big deal. We finished the temple, and now we just have to finish it by bringing in the Ark of the Covenant. Go ahead.
Verse 2. And all the men of Israel assembled themselves unto King Solomon at the feast in the month of Ethanim, which is the 7th month.
There we go. Right now, you can read the prayer from verses 22 to about 33. No, basically, the rest of the chapter, really.
Yeah.
If you really want to read his whole prayer, it's really the rest of the chapter. It's a really good prayer, but that's when he dedicated the first temple. It was dedicated during the Feast of Tabernacles. So when we cleansed the temple and dedicated it again, we modeled it after the original dedication. That's why it's 8 days long. Okay. Last scripture. Get me John chapter 10, verse 22. Okay. Show us that, yes, Yahushua kept this feast. Okay.
This is the book of John, chapter 10, verse 22. And it was at Jerusalem, the feast of dedication.
The feast of the dedication, right? Go ahead.
And it was winter.
It was winter. Now, normally, this feast day is in winter. It's not quite winter yet, but we're there, right? We're just about there. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 23. And Yahushua walked in the temple in Solomon's porch.
So he was there during the feast day. He was in the temple during the feast. Okay. Now you can read 24 just to, get for context.
Verse 24. Then came the Jews around about him and said unto him, How long do thou make us to doubt? If thou be the Christ, tell us plainly.
Right. So the people were trying to put pressure on him, saying, look, if you're the Messiah, can you just tell us now what's the hold up? All right. So I just wanted to go there to show y'all, yes, Christ kept this holy day. Okay. He kept this feast. All right. I hope y'all got something out of the class. Again, this was the foundation. There's 8 more days of this. Well, 7 really. There's 7 more days of this. So if any of the other teachers who will be here tomorrow and throughout the rest of the week, they'll go into the meat and potatoes of it all. They probably will do so. But again, I hope y'all got something out of the class. I really hope y'all did. Thank you. All praise to the Most High. Okay, all praise to the Most High. I actually do have a little bit of personal connection to this holy day because tonight actually marks my 10th year in the truth. So,
all praise.
Yeah. No, 2013. My first Hanukkah, my first real service, and I sat in my aunt's kitchen or in her living room with her husband, her children, and my sister, right? And we kept the feast of dedication. It was the first time I ever done it. It was I loved it. It was a joyous occasion. So yeah, 10 years later, here I am teaching Hanukkah, right? So. And it's all because of the Most High anyway. It's all glory to Him. I started this journey at the age of 20. Very young man. I was a college student. Didn't really know much about the world, and when I first came into my understanding of who I am, I was full of passion. I was young, full of energy, ready to chop off every Edomite's head I could find. I was very angry, but as I got older and wiser, hopefully, learn to navigate and start to grow in this truth. And I also want to give thanks to the elders of the House of David for cultivating me, being patient with me, watching me grow, helping me grow. I went from sitting in classes to teaching on the street, teaching Friday night classes, and now I'm here teaching Hanukkah classes, and who knows, reading for Passover services and whatnot. So I just want to thank the elders for trusting me with this and letting me teach tonight. So hopefully we keep this thing going and keep it going. All right, let's feast. All right, shalom everyone. All right, Ben.